G'day, welcome to another episode of Fearless Singer. I'm Mel Lathuris and I'm so excited because I have the incredible Josephine Lancuba. Oh my God, I just totally balked at your last name. I was practicing it. It's not even a hard name. Lancuba.
Thank you. Yeah. And don't
Yes.
worry, you're not the only one to do that. It happens really more often than you think, but it is actually just said as verbatim as spelt. Lancuba. There you
Cuba.
go.
And
Easy.
it's fabulous as well. Oh my goodness. I think it's just it's 8 o'clock at night. My brain.
100%. We're doing really well. We're doing so well.
Thanks. Look, I'm so excited that you're here because I've been following you for a while. You're a performing arts business coach, which is fabulous. We need more of you in the world for creatives because, as you know, we're all fighting that, that sort of the starving artist mentality. And
I call it starving artist syndrome is what I call it.
Starving artist syndrome. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the more, and coming from a singing background and a performance background myself for a couple of decades, I worked professionally on stages and on screen for many years. And then moving into the business side of it, it's really interesting actually that is one of the major elements that I think is a block for performers is for anyone in the arts, is that whole treating yourself as a business. It's something they should start teaching in performing arts colleges and schools, and they don't teach it enough, I tell you.
No, look, I think that there are some really fantastic innovative schools. I know there's one here in the Valley, so here in Brisbane. It's called Music Industry College. They're very much, about entrepreneurship and that's it. But it should be a little bit more mainstream because we're no different to any kind of business. It's just that we are our product.
Yeah,
But the other thing too is you also help studio owners.
Yes,
to scale and to increase their flow of students, which is also very important because that also I think oh look, we've all been there as studio owners. That I teach singing. Sometimes you just get a little bit of a block when it comes to your intake and just finding new ways to attract your ideal client. And I know that you help people do that. And we're going to talk about this a bit later, but you also have a conference coming up to help studio owners. But really sort of focusing more on innovation, like how do we keep things nice and fresh so that we are always attracting our students. So but first things first, take us right back. When did you start when did you know, the stage is for me?
I believe that I always had a natural ability when it came to singing from a very young age. And I came from, the school of hard knocks. I definitely came from a very rough background. I left home when I was young, and music was definitely my sanctuary. It was always my safe place. And though I didn't have the resources growing up to fully pursue it, my family didn't invest in me in a lot of ways, but they certainly weren't investing in private lessons or classes or anything like that. But every now and then they would, and then it always got taken away. It's just the way it was. It was just the way it was. So my sister started working for a studio when I was about 12 years old. So I'd always been singing at home. My sister played piano. I'd watch her. I'd steal the music books off the piano and run outside and be trying to read it and figure it out. And I still remember singing Memory from Cats, trying to read this musical score that I just couldn't understand. But I always had a passion for it. I just knew it was something I wanted to do. And then she started teaching at a dance studio, and I was able to get free lessons. So that was, I started movement classes. And then when you start in any sort of art form, that opens the door to more opportunity, They recognized that I had a good voice. I got to sing a little bit in studio. They put me up for a Stedfords. I still remember one a Stedford I did. I hate a Stedfords, by the way, but I still remember
Oh,
what
I
I
shouldn't
did.
say that because
And I got really scared and I ran off the stage, like all this crazy stuff as a kid. But I think it was all the building blocks, and just look, the fact that that studio owner believed in me enough to provide those free lessons because my sister was teaching there and it had a really beautiful community feel. And so I started doing that. And then I guess there was a point where I was singing quite a bit throughout high school. I was always in the school musical, or the kid that did like the band at school. That was me. And I'd pick up any resource or opportunity that I could. But I didn't really kick off till I was about 18. I dropped out of school when I was in year 12. I never did the final year. At the time, it was called HSC here in New South Wales. That's because I wasn't living at home. I was putting myself through school. I just didn't have the support. I was scared to do the exam, and I didn't have parents to say, go do it. Believe in yourself. You can do it. Like, there was none of that. It was just me and my own head. So, so I dropped out, went and worked in an office for 6 months doing administration. And that's when I realized, really, truly, I remember thinking, I just want to sing, Anyway, I started flicking through the yellow pages at the time. I'm 40, by the way, so it was the yellow pages. And I was looking up, dance classes or something. And then I stumbled across this studio and they had auditions for a full-time musical theatre course. So I auditioned and I got in, and that was it. I was like, yes. And then I moved to Melbourne and I did a year there. And then I came back, and then I don't know why, you just do what you do. And I fell into real estate again, the office vibe, for another 6 months. And then I quit that job. And this was in my early 20s. I went up to the boss one day and I said, I'm really sorry, but I have to leave. And he goes, why? You're so good. You're getting results. I said, I just want to sing. I said, I just want to sing. And that was it. And I
good
left
on you.
and I never looked back. And that's what I've done ever since. I've lived my life in the performing arts, whichever way it came, through performance for a decade. Then I started teaching. I started managing talent. So I'm a talent agent now, but I teach studio owners how to create their own in-house talent management services. But it's all evolved from that moment. And it was definitely from being a passionate artist and not wanting to end up in a 9-to-5. I only did it a bit and I just couldn't do it. It was like soul destroying. And I think a lot of creatives can really resonate with that.
Oh, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had a similar story. It's amazing. It's like, although in saying that, you I stayed in it for quite a few years and like gradually felt myself, getting crushed, further. So it took like being totally squished to go, all right, okay, now I'm out of here.
Oh,
You're
believe
just
me,
like,
I waited on tables. I've done everything.
but you're
I've
like
waited on
6 months
tables.
in,
Yeah.
nah, I'm getting out of here. I want to sing. Yeah.
But mind you, when I was then pursuing my art, I
Mm,
needed to work. So that's when I would do waitressing, bartending, cloakrooms at clubs, whatever. I
mm,
worked in hospitality for many years while pursuing my craft because
mm.
financially I couldn't do it. But that's because I didn't know what I know today. And that
Yeah.
was that I needed to operate as a business. I was a contractor, but I never saw myself that way. I
Mm,
always just saw myself as the artist. I never saw myself as, the commodity, which sounds terrible when you do art
mm,
because no one
mm.
wants to think of it like that. But it truly is the truth, like we have to think of ourselves that way. So I guess that's part of what I teach as well. It's that whole, so how do we actually turn our performance art into a thriving business that
When
is aligned with us,
Yeah, when did you make the flip? When did you go, right, okay, that's enough, just gigging and working in hospitality, when did you start to see yourself as the commodity and start to take the business side? Well, not seriously,
There's
but like,
two, well, yeah, I hear what you're
yeah.
saying. There's definitely two sides to this. So I started dabbling in business first. Um, and the way I did that was at the time, I didn't know how, I knew I wanted to do some business, but I didn't know how. And I was working for a company at the time, teaching in schools, whatever they needed. It could have been a dance class, a musical theatre class, something creative, whatever, entertainment. And I was working for this company, and they'd send me all around Sydney to different events and schools and workshops and things like that. It's quite modular, you know. And I just remember there was such disorganization in this business. Oh God, I could do this so much better, I thought. That's what I thought, you know. And so then one day I remember I was just going for a walk with a friend, and I was like complaining about all these things, and they ran their own business. And they're like, why don't you just do it for yourself? And I just thought, oh yeah, why don't I do that? So I went and did certificate 4 in business because, again, I didn't know what I was doing. And that was really awesome because these courses that you do are whatever.
I did
You don't really
certificate
need
for in business. I did it through the niece program. Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
It's
It was like it
very
was the best thing in, like, honestly,
Oh,
like
it was so enlightening.
it's so good.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I wrote my business plan, and
Yeah.
now I don't write business plans anymore. I have plans, but I don't do the traditional business plan. I think that's, redundant for me now. I kind of have a different method. But at the time, it was really important just to get pen to paper and have a concept and an outline of what I was going to create, how much I'd charge, what services I would provide, that sort of thing. And that's what I did. And then I started, and it was really just a side business for a very long time. I started then running theatrical programs, collaborating with other people. I was a choreographer for a few years, all sorts of things. I've been there, done that. Started working for an organization, doing talent management. I was booking artists for major events. That saw me traveling to New Zealand and on TV sets and all sorts of things. So it was pretty cool. But again, I was just running this business on the sidelines. The moment I took it seriously, funnily enough, was when I got pregnant with my first child. And I like to say that I hung up my microphone when I was 4 months pregnant because I was I was in a tribute show as Sporty Spice.
I can see you as Sporty Spice.
And no one wants a pregnant Sporty. I mean, it was a different world 10 years ago. Now they couldn't kick me out if they tried, right? So, but back then you couldn't be pregnant Sporty Spice. Just wasn't the look. And then I went on to do some other things, but really, essentially, I decided to hang up my microphone. I remember I was doing a gig out in an RSL club in Sydney, but it was really far from my home, and the gig finished at like 1 a.m. And by the time I got home, I just felt exhausted and I was tired. I'd been doing this now for 10 years. The pay had not gone up. I was getting the same rate that I was getting 10 years ago, and I was sick of it. I was tired of it, and I wanted something more for myself. And I just thought, that's it. I'm going to give this a go. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to commit full time to this business, because it's never going to take off, and I'm going to continue waiting on tables or adminning or whatever, or working for this company or that, and just being run off my feet. So that was it. And then I just went on to start the business full time when I was pregnant with my first baby, and I opened my first studio when she was 6 months old. And I would bring her in and, be teaching with her, like she was there, and it was just my life. I got very motivated when I was pregnant, funnily
You're
enough.
amazing. That I've heard that story countless times. When people have a baby, it's just like it just changes your life. Like, in terms of course, the motivation's like nothing else.
Yeah, it's like you just
Yeah.
click into this energetic mode. Like, I've got to get this done. I've got to sort this business out before I have a baby. I've got to make this work now. I've got to make this
Mm.
work. It's really interesting how your mindset changes, but that's how it happened for me. And, and I haven't looked back since. Like, I love business. I love supporting emerging artists. Like I said, I manage talent. And I provide them with opportunities in film, television, theatre, commercial, on stage, musicals. I've had some of my talent recently do some pretty phenomenal things. So I feel like, I love what I do. So it was definitely the right direction for me.
Yeah, honestly, it's so inspiring. And so how long have you been full-time business now? So is that
So I did that in 2014.
yeah.
I made a commitment to saying, that's it. I'm not going to work for anyone else ever again.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what I've done so far. So it started off with studio ownership.
Yep.
I opened up one studio, and that was my first time with a commercial lease. That was interesting. I could tell you lots of stories about that. But anyway, the landlord from hell, the drunk
Oh,
landlord who used to just come, and anyway. But that was a learning curve. Um, I didn't have a budget, much money, so the property that I got had some water damage issues, so we didn't have
oh,
electricity in the main studio. It was all crazy, but
oh,
we did
mate.
that. I did my best, and I learned a lot. Thankfully, I only signed a 12-month lease, and then I moved out. And then from there, I started subleasing. But now I have 4 club sites with my Musical Makers Club, it's very popular. We run musical theatre programs for young people. And like I said, I've got my talent agency and I've got my coaching business where I teach performing arts businesses. So it's been quite the journey.
So when do you sleep?
Well, the good thing is that I've designed my studio business now by leaning on team. So
Mm.
I no longer teach. I actually stepped away from teaching a couple of years ago. It was one of the best decisions I ever made because it allows me to be creative. I write shows. I produced a musical last year and toured it to Melbourne and Sydney, which was very successful. I wrote a musical called Time Machine, the musical. It was written for children with 5 adult cast, but 4 kids in the children's entertainment, space. We had 1,800 kids come and see it in Melbourne last year, and 550 kids come and see it in Sydney. So that was quite a lucrative experience because I
Mm.
wrote it myself. I didn't have any licensing fees. It was pretty fantastic, actually.
Yeah, good on you.
And that was very lucrative. So this is what I mean by the opportunities that you can create for yourself and make it a business. Like, we made $30,000 in ticket sales in 1 week, and that was by using the vacation care market. So instead of selling individual seats, I just went to a big client who owns vacation care centres across Australia and said, hey, this is our show, pitched it. They said they loved it. And they just said, great, yeah, no worries.
Oh,
We need this many tickets and
amazing.
this many seats. So those 1,800 seats we sold in Melbourne was to one client. That's one phone call. Those 550 seats we sold in Sydney was one client, one phone call. This is what I mean. People don't actually know the scope of possibility that they have the potential of,
Mm.
because they're so hyper-focused on the art, which is beautiful.
Mm.
But you can't sustain yourself without money as an artist. You need to make some money.
Yeah.
So if you can even just have these pop-up projects where you have a couple of solid clients, you can sell what you're selling,
Mm.
it's your love, full-on passion project, maybe not, but it's still pretty cool,
Mm.
and it's still in your wheelhouse. Children's entertainment's in my wheelhouse, so I knew
Mm.
I could sell it. And there are booking agents too. This is the other bit people don't realise. So I'm going on a tangent here because
No,
they get
this is
passionate.
fantastic. And I'm telling you now, so listeners to this podcast, like a lot are singers, but there's a lot of studio owners who are listening, who will
Well,
be
you don't. This
listening.
is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
that's being a producer. You don't
Mm.
need to be a studio owner for
Yeah.
that. You can be a singer or a music producer or a writer. You could write a play
Mm.
and sell it to the market.
Yeah.
The problem is that sometimes when you want to make something commercially like that and you want to make it for a return of investment, it can't be hyper indulgent. So this isn't making art for the sake of making art. This is, I'm an artist, but I need to create something I can sell that is still aligned with me, that I still believe in, but I know it's going to make money. And so that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, would you rather do that? Would you rather write the children's musical theatre show and sell that for 30K and do 1 week of shows? Or would you rather work for a year as a waitress getting that same money? This is what I mean. If you could draw the comparison, because you might go, oh, I don't want to, that's not my wheelhouse. I just want to, sing and be in a band and blah, blah, blah. But even though you have the writing capabilities and you have these capabilities to do that, the other bit is you don't actually have to sell it. You can go through booking agents that you just pitch the show to the booking agent and they sell it for you and they just take a commission. It's actually not as hard as people think. They just need to know where to go, what to do, and then execute,
Oh, that's amazing. No, I'm just thinking about like also singer musicians who are teachers that don't feel like they have the time to be creative. That's the other thing. So I have a lot of friends who, gave up singing, to focus on teaching and, raising kids. But now because they do so much teaching, they don't feel like they have the time to, to do the more creative things. So,
yes,
yeah, I think
this is
that's
why I
going to
stepped
be
back from
really
teaching.
inspiring. Yeah.
This is why I stepped back from teaching and I started hiring others to teach the programs that I'd built up.
Yeah.
Because I was in that rut too.
Yeah.
So I was teaching for years and years and I stopped being creative. In fact, I stopped growing the business. I realized that our revenue was the same like for 2-3 years running. And I thought, I'm too in the business here. I'm not actually working on developing it. I'm not being creative anymore. So I stepped away from teaching and then the business blew up. Funny, huh? Believe me, it's hard to relinquish the control sometimes. No one teaches singing as good as I can. No one will teach that class as good as I can. No one communicates with the parents as good as I can or with the students or the clients. But you know what? So what? Like if you can get it to 80% of where you're at, it will grow. That's what I reckon. I go for 80%. If I can get everyone 80% of Josephine power. But then I also focus heavily on training. So I make sure that we have, a code of conduct, that it's like very much about we're all aligned, we're on the same mission, all of that. So
absolutely. Yeah.
That's really clear. But I think for people out there that are teaching, especially, singing teachers, people listening to your podcast, if you've built up a really beautiful client base, and you're afraid to step away because you're worried you'll lose them or you won't make as much money, I would say reconsider that, because your students will adapt to new coaches. Or when you start getting new inquiries, you can even get someone on casually to take on those new people coming through, so that you can step away and start thinking, how can I grow this business? Or how can I produce a show and sell it? How can I produce a music act and make it bigger than Ben-Hur? How am I going to do that? Or even just how can I fill up my cup? Like for me personally, I was just saying this before you hit record, I want to go back to singing myself. I haven't felt that in a long time. I haven't missed singing on stages since I had kids. I just haven't. I haven't even thought about it. But I've started to get the itch again this year. And I thought, I need to explore this again. And for me, it's actually not about making money from singing anymore, because I make enough money through business. So I don't need to do that anymore. Now it's really just about joy. It would be nice, if I get a little bit sure, but it's actually not about that for me. For me, I just want to sing again and perform again, even if it's just here and there. So I think you never, ever stop loving your craft. I mean, I've been teaching it, sure, and training others in it. But, yeah, I think it's nice to actually be on the performance side again. And that's something I'll be looking forward to in the future.
Oh, I can't wait to see that happen. Because you're talking about like finding a band, and honestly, there's
Find a
nothing like
band
it.
or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to pressure of it though, because, being like, we've been artists, you still work professionally in the field, but you've probably got your groove now. Or, it's very different
Well,
when you're auditioning for musical theatre leads and all that crap. I'm so over it. I can't do it.
yeah. So I'm in a couple of different bands, and yeah, you just work with your people. You find your people, and
That's
then
it.
you're there. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different when you're auditioning to be the lead role in, Tina Turner the musical. That's a whole different kettle of fish than being in a band where it's more community
Yeah,
vibes. It's just a good
absolutely.
feel. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You just spoke my love language then. I love Tina Turner.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I just saw, actually, the reason I said that is because I saw an audition brief coming through for that today.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh
so
my
there you go.
goodness, Tina Turner the musical. I'm so going. Now listen, let's talk about the studio conference, the
Love
Studio
to.
Innovation
Yeah, so
Conference.
Studio Innovation Conference is happening in Sydney, Friday, the 8th of September. And it's really about bringing fresh ideas, future thinking, bringing our studios into the future. I think what we're seeing now is the climate has changed. There's inflation, there's the impact post-COVID, client expectations are changing. The way we engage with our students is changing. There's been a lot of trauma. There's been a lot of disengagement, especially with our younger students. So, I think we need to reinvent ourselves a little bit as performing arts studio owners, and we need to look into the future with a fresh approach. So that's what Studio Innovation conference is all about. And honestly, I think, we've got a lineup of great speakers. We're going to be talking about the power of personal brand. This is as one of them. I mean, there's many topics, everything from, finances through to AI and ChatGPT and how to adapt that into your business, even a creative business, because creatives can sometimes go, oh, no, bury my head in the sand, but we can't bury our head in the sand. We have to be aware of it. We're talking about a fresh approach to venue hire and theatre hire, because we know that the costs are astronomical and you can literally dunk all your profits into hiring a space when producing a show. So we're talking about a lot of different things. I'm going to talk about how to create your we've got a speaker talking about how to create your own professional performing arts company in-house. I'm going to be talking about how to create a talent agency in-house. So there's a lot of stuff going on. That's the future of studio ownership. But yeah, definitely, I think it's necessary in this market to move forward, because studio owners especially, and sometimes artists in general, tend to do what they've always done because it's comfortable. So I want people to not feel overwhelmed by change. I want to support them through change, and I want to do that so that they feel confident and they can move forward with ease. So that's what this is about. It's about connection, community, and moving forward. That was a long spiel, but I'm really
No, it sounds
Can you
amazing.
tell?
Look, you've touched on some amazing points, and it's so true. As a studio owner, you get a little bit complacent, but also
Yes,
too, I think if you're not in a network seeing other studio owners operate, it's not being modeled to you. Do you know what I mean? So you just kind of get used to your own, the way you do things. But to be able to go and see how other studio owners are embracing change, and looking at, AI, and, saying, okay, how can I use this to help me,
totally.
rather than be afraid of, some of the things that are coming
Yes.
and seeing that modeled, honestly, that would be so invaluable.
Totally. I mean, we're also talking about in the classroom,
Yeah.
how to adapt change to, new strategies around teaching. So I've got a
Well,
lady called
kids
Elena.
kids are different. This is the
They
other thing.
are.
They are so different.
Yes.
And rather than going, oh God, kids, these days, like getting into
Yes,
that
and that is
narrative,
what's
it's
happening in a lot of the
yeah.
Facebook group communities. We're seeing
Mm.
studio owners saying kids are just not committed anymore. They're not willing to wear the uniform. They're complaining. They're choosing the school disco over the competition team rehearsal, and people are just so angry and frustrated. we can be angry and frustrated all we want, but this is your client now.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not going
So
to change.
we have to change.
Mm.
And so it's about adapting to a new market. And there's nothing wrong with that. All markets adapt and change. It's just that COVID fast tracked it in a short period of time for us and many other industries too. We're not the only ones. I mean, even just the fact that now, and this is for all teachers listening, I mean, I have a terms and conditions that we have with our students when they sign up. And the thing that we talk about is, you know, first of all, we have a 30-day exit. So I believe in direct debit, guys. I don't invoice people to pay me anymore. And so that's one thing. That's for sure. But, you know, we talk about a range of things and it's all in our terms and conditions. So I think just even having those sorts of steps in place is so invaluable. But yeah, we can complain until the cows come home. But honestly, this is who we're teaching. So I've got actually a lovely woman. Her name is Elena Lambrinos. She'll be at Studio Innovation Conference, and she's a TEDx speaker who talks around, that new strategy of teaching and new ways to be inclusive, to get results. And it's really quite an interesting presentation that she does. And again, it's just about new ways of thinking and how we can teach in the new modern world that we're living in. We can't deny it, you know.
You know, it's interesting, I have to say. So before you said, I hate Esteves, and I went, I do too. Well, actually, listen, I really want to sort of pay homage because, you know, that's how I started performing, really, you know, as a kid in Bundaberg. That was a really great opportunity. And I think, you know, it was mostly women that volunteered to make that happen. And I guess as a kid, it caused a lot of anxiety because of the competition and, you know.
It
was just it's very old school. But I have to say, so I'm from Bundaberg, so it's about 5 hours north of Brisbane. And there's a group of women there now who've completely rebranded it. They've rebranded the Eisteddfod. It's way more in tune with, you know, the client, the young people of today.
Yes.
And it is very much about inclusivity and creating a safe space for young people, you know, to thrive and to actually love the stage, not to give that, you know, that feeling of dread and anxiety. So, you know, that's actually a really nice example of how, you know, a group of women decided, okay, how do we change the narrative around Eisteddfod so that young people want to be part of it, you know? So, so I just think what you're saying is really inspiring. I want to come to the conference.
But see how you go. See how you go.
Well, who knows? You could be just like a flight down.
It starts at 10 a.m., so it's not too bad.
No, that sounds great. And I've got some singing teacher friends like in Armidale and so New South Wales. So, you know, how much of a drive is Armidale to Sydney?
I have no idea, but I would encourage everyone. I don't think it matters where you're from. This is going to be a very unique event. It's unlike other studio owner or those sorts of conferences because first of all, I encompass the performing arts as a whole. So a lot of these conferences are dance studio conferences. That's not what this is. This is not a dance studio conference. This is for performing arts studio owners, their teachers, their team are welcome. And we're really encompassing change, future thinking, that fresh approach. And I think that goes for anyone. And I do think it's a unique experience. And so for that, it's definitely worth coming down. I mean, we have people fly across. I fly across Australia. I went to Uluru for the Tina Tower.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and I'll be in the Gold Coast next year. You know, I think if there's something that you really want to do, but again, I do that as well for community. So that's what's beautiful about these sorts of events is once you go to them, you start to meet people and then you just keep wanting to go to them because you want to bump into your friends, your business buddies.
Oh, I've met so many I've got business soulmates now through different retreats and conferences and
100%.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic.
And again, that whole piece of treating ourselves like businesses. And, you know, some people will say, oh, but then I can't invest in that or blah, blah. But I say rubbish to that because it's these sorts of events, experiences, and programs that propel your business forward for growth. So unless you're a part of it, unless you're a part of the conversation, you're actually being left behind. And that's the honest to God truth. And that's why I invest in my own education, and I, have mentors and things like that, because I do believe in it. And I feel like if I didn't have mentors, my gosh, I don't even know the state of where I'd be with my business. I probably would have given up a long time ago and, gone back to the admin office. And by the way, I just want to say nothing wrong with that, people.
No,
My
that's
husband's
it.
an analyst. Nothing wrong with that. It's just not for me. And chances are, if you're listening to this podcast, it's not for you either. And I do want to go back, because we had a bit of an internet hiccup before, but I just want to go back to that Stedford thing that you were saying. I agree with you. I think that there is some really, there are beautiful competitions out there that are starting to evolve in the space. And I experienced some really positive ones as well through my growing up as a young artist. So, it's not toddlers and tiaras. That's not what we're after.
No, exactly.
Or dance mums, God help us. But no. But there are beautiful things happening, and there's change happening, and I think that's really positive. I think all parts of the industry are positive, and any opportunity that we can give for people to perform or to strive for a goal is a great thing,
Oh, 100%, 100%. Can we just also quickly acknowledge that you are an author?
Oh, yes.
And that you've written a book about, this is why I think we share so many similarities. So one of my greatest love is women, so like I'm definitely a feminist, and I just watched the Barbie movie and I cried. And
oh my God, so did I.
Yeah. Oh my
I
God.
brought my 8-year-old daughter, my 6-year-old son to it. It was PG. I thought they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Some of the topics might have gone over their head, but I do think that it was good for them to watch, actually.
Oh, 100%. And so I have an all-girl jazz band. And so, it's just really lovely to see that you've written a book about inspiring women.
I do want to make a point about that book. This was co-written, so I've written a chapter in the book. And
my apologies.
Yes. So the book is called The Women Changing the World. It was a #1 bestseller on Amazon, and it was a collaborative effort with me and a group of other businesswomen who are making an impact in this world. And my particular chapter was around the impact I make, one person at a time, one smile at a time, because I'm an advocate for artists. I'm an advocate for our industry. I'm on the standing committee of Oz Dance. That's a volunteer position. I help them, fundraise, and I do all sorts of things. I speak at their events, all of that. And I do all of this because I just want to make a change in the world. And I do believe that the job that we do as performers, as performing arts teachers, all of it can absolutely change people's lives. I mean, I know when I was a young person, and as I mentioned, I came from the School of Hard Knocks. I actually grew up in a home of domestic violence, and music was my sanctuary. It was my everything. I loved it, and it was my safe place. I would go and I'd hide and I'd sing my favorite song, and that's beautiful. The person that composed that, the person that delivered that vocal, the person that, wrote that song gave me hope. And music connects. I connect to music so deeply. I mean, mate, I can cry to any song. Like I'm such a sucker for it. And I love a good storyteller. And so when I listen to music, I do that. And that's what this book is about for me anyway. My chapter is about the impact I made as a teacher. So, I talk about a story about a young boy who came from a home of domestic violence, and he came into my studio one day, and I ended up giving him a scholarship because his parents couldn't afford it, and I could see he had great talent. And I just wanted him to be there because I felt like he was me and I was him, And if I had that opportunity when I was young, when someone gave me that scholarship. And so I wanted to pay it forward. This is what it's about. And that's just one story. I mean, that kid ended up playing Prince Charming. This was many years ago. Prince Charming in one of our productions. and his family didn't show up. I offered them complimentary tickets, but no one was there to watch him. He didn't show up to the rehearsal that day, and I drove to his house and I picked him up because I'm like, I'm not letting you miss this show, mate. You've been training for 6 months. And, no one was there for him, but I was. And I'm going to cry now because it's these moments. This is what it's about. This is the power of art. This is the power of what we do. This is the power of performance, community, what we create. So, people, and there's people in the book that change the world in big ways. But for me as an artist, little old me, with my teaching, my students and all the bits, if I can change the life of one kid, then I've done something. Just like that studio owner gave me a chance, I want to give someone else a chance. Just like, that song that made me feel safe. I used to sing memories from Cats on repeat as a kid, and I always felt like I was, like that Grisabella, the cat that no one loved, but I connected to that. That's powerful. So it's what we do is more powerful than people think,
Bloody oats. Oh, you're amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. You've just, honestly, your story, everything that you do, you've just blown me away.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, mate, I'll put all your links. But I just want to say that with this Studio Innovation Conference, it's at www.josephinelancuba.com/conference.
Yeah, so josephinelancuba.com/conference. And yes, if we can put a link in the show notes, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll put it up on the screen.
We've got limited capacity, everyone that's listening. If you want to do this, I don't care where you are in the world, come on down. It's catered. There's going to be tea and coffee all day. And you'll get to meet me and some other amazing people.
I'm seriously thinking, because I really want to come.
I want you to come. Come on down. By the time I don't know if by the time this airs, the early bird special will be on or off, but at the moment
when
we
is
have
the
early bird special.
When is it? Just say when it is. Because
just in case, I don't know if it's going to be on in time, but it's for July only. So if you book in July, you get a 20% discount. If you use the coupon code Innovate23, so Innovate23, and you will get 20% off the ticket if you purchase in July. But if you're listening to this after that date, that's okay. Tickets are available up until the date or until we sell out. So it's an intimate conference. It's not about being bigger than Ben-Hur. It's just about genuine connection, genuine education, information, and community. That's what it's about. But come on down to Studio Innovation Conference. And guys, follow me on Instagram, okay? At Josephine Lancuba. You can send me a DM. We can have a conversation. I'm ready for it.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, look, I'm gonna just get this out because So no one's gonna miss out on that early bird special.
Thank you so much, Mel. It's been great.
Oh, honestly, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Bye.